Hey, Bastish B here for 64K and welcome to vlog number 13.
Welcome to 64K. Hosted by Bastish B.
And welcome back. So there are a bunch of changes to last month's schedule. That's just because there were a few things that the timing, I wasn't sure about the release dates. Some of them were pushed up or whatever, but there were a few extra videos and I pushed a few back. So if you didn't check out the Age of Heroes video I did for the Commodore 64, comparing it to Rastan, you can check that one out. There was an unexpected one. I thought this game was coming out a little bit later. And another one was the CRPG book, that one that was released by Bitmap Books. I got my one a little bit early. I pre-ordered it, and there were some issues with the copies of the actual book, and I chose just to receive it because I didn't think it was going to be a big deal, and it turned out to be nothing. The version that I got looks perfect. If you're a nitpicker, you might be able to find something. I couldn't find anything. They look great to me. So anyway, if you want to check that out as well, it's a coverage of that excellent book. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at May's schedule, all the shows I got coming out in May on my channel. First up, I got a new episode of Modern Vintage. This one takes a look at the new released version of Saboteur on the Nintendo Switch, and comparing it to the old Commodore 64 version. You got that episode, and on the opposite end of the spectrum I've got a new retro episode, and that one is dealing with Exploding Fish, a game that was released a couple months ago on the Commodore 64. It's a new release. And then I'm comparing it to a game called Neptune's Daughters, which are, gameplay wise, they're not exactly the same, but it's kind of an inspiration in the feeling of the game. So I got that comparison, and you can check out that video as well. I've also got another episode of Top 10s. These are beasts to make, as you can probably imagine. Anyway, this one is for Sega Mega Drive Genesis Top 10 racing games. I played a heck of a lot of games to make up this list, and if you're looking for some 16-bit racing goodness, then this video should be pretty cool. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, I've got another episode of Lootin' Booty. So in this episode, I go to a local retro video game store, we check it out, as well as I do a few pickups there. And on top of that, I'm going to show all my recent thrifting of the last few weeks, so you can check out all the games I've managed to pick up and other oddities. I've also got the third episode of Compilation Nation. We're going to have a look at the Konami 50th anniversary release. The one is called Arcade Classics. It's got 8 classic Konami arcade games, so we're going to check that one out. I've also got 3 more episodes of Wired for Sound, some Commodore 64 tunes, and some arcade stuff as well. You're also going to see a couple of rapid fire reviews. I got one for Enforcer, the Commodore 64 shoot 'em up by Manfred Trenz. I love that game. I'm also going to be covering a game called The Heart of China. It's a PC 90s point and click adventure style game. I really love it. It's made by Dynamics. You can check that one out as well. The Commodore 64 demo scene is also covered here. I've got 3 demo shares. These ones are fairly recent ones, at least within the last 6 months. I found 3 that I really liked, so I'll be sharing those as well on the channel. And finally, for video wise, I got the final episode of Baby Plays. This is just me and my daughter playing some Amiga games together, and this one is just going to be a compilation of all the games I still have left, because there wasn't, I really showcased all the best ones. These ones are, I don't have enough footage for to make individual episodes out of them, but there's enough good funny content in each one to make up one episode, one finale. So we'll just play a whole bunch of Amiga games all in a row, and that'll be the end of that series. I had a lot of fun making it. It's gonna come back in some sort of form. It won't be called Baby Plays anymore because my daughter's just 3.5 now, and these were shot when she was about 2.5 to 3 years old. So it's just a little bit weird calling it Baby Plays at this point, because she can talk talk pretty well. So it's going to come back maybe as kid plays at some point, and I don't know whether we'll still be playing Amiga, we might jump over to Commodore, maybe play some console stuff. We're gonna play something anyway. So if you're watching one of these vlogs for the first time, you may not know, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon, and each one of those formats have extra content. For example, Instagram, I'm busy posting up all the games I own, so you can check out the boxed versions of the real things. And on Facebook and Twitter, I post a lot of extra videos, little mini videos and pictures and of stuff, so there's a lot of good gaming stuff. And on Patreon, I've got early access to videos. I also got behind the scenes stuff, so you can check that out. And on top of that, you can pose questions, which I'll answer here in the vlog. Okay, so here are 3 Patreon questions posed by Dave. I'm going to try and answer them the best I can. Dave asks, when you review C64 or other games, are you running mostly an original hardware, C64 Mini, emulation, or a combination of all? So the short answer is a combination of all. Just due to, different systems are easier to work or whatever. If you can see, you can't really see, but I've got a Xbox Original, Xbox 360, PS2, PS1. I've got a Japanese Saturn and a Japanese Dreamcast. These are just set up quickly to capture footage. All those are done from original hardware, all those systems, all the time. I never use emulation for any of those. I've got a Super Retrocade, which I use for arcade emulation. Obviously, I don't, that's the only way to capture arcade stuff, really. And I've got a C64 Mini here. This is also used to capture Commodore 64 footage. So the Commodore 64 footage, I usually use VAS emulation, just because it's just practical. I can do it quickly. I don't have a lot of time, and it gives the best kind of picture quality. So, when you're watching a video, you want to see it looking good. If I capture it with the old AV cables or whatever, it's gonna have like a kind of a fuzz look to it. It still looks good, but it just looks so much better through VAS emulation. And I also use the C64 Mini to capture footage sometimes. It just varies. The reason why I don't capture it from an original Commodore 64, which I've literally got parked over there, is because the cables don't run this far. I know that's a dumb practical reason, and I don't have space here to put it. It's just, there's too many things, but more importantly, the biggest reason is time. I don't have a lot of time on my hands, so capturing from an original Commodore 64, it takes a long time. I have to load up discs, they take forever. I don't have every single game on disc available to me. I have games in storage and stuff like that, so from a practical point of view, it's simply not practical to do it that way. The time that it takes is just way too much, so that's the reason why I use emulation for the Commodore 64 stuff. And 16-bit games and 8-bit games also, I mostly use emulation, but all the other 32-bit and etc onwards, I use original hardware for those. Okay, so the second question is, I have a Commodore 1702 monitor and use an HDMI to composite converter to convert the modern sources like a PSX Mini and a C64 Mini to a composite signal. Is there an off-the-shelf solution to convert HDMI to Chroma Luma inputs for the back of an 1702 monitor? What do you do? There probably is. I don't know of any personally. The reason is I don't use my 1702 monitor for anything else but playing original Commodore 64 games, and I have my Amiga also. I hook that up to that as well, so that's all I use it for. I don't use it to play C64 Mini or anything with an HDMI input. I don't know personally if anybody out there that's watching this knows of a device that can do that. You can help Dave out here and maybe leave some comments and a solution to help him out with that. I personally just don't have any need for that device in my setup, so I don't know. Okay, and the third and final question is, I'm struggling at coming up with a quality joystick for the C64 Mini, as the one that ships with it is not that great and prone to breaking. I have done the screw fix, but the robustness of the joystick just isn't there. What joystick do you use for the C64 Mini? Okay, believe it or not, I use the one that came with it, the original one. I use that 90% of the time. I know I know a lot of people don't like it, and it doesn't feel like completely right. It's just a bit of a weird thing. It doesn't feel strong enough. I get that. I don't really have too much of an issue with it though. Honestly, it feels okay. It's not the greatest, but I use that 90% of the time. You can't use it for certain games. It just feels weird. I do also use just a kind of a joypad though. I use this one. It's called Circa. You can see there. I bought this. This was super cheap. I think it was 15 or 20 bucks. This works pretty well. This is a good solution. It depends on what type of games you play. You cannot play multi-event sports games with this. You cannot go like this fast enough to even like control those games at all, so you can forget playing that kind of thing. This works pretty well for almost any other type of game. You can see here, back and forth. You use the left controller to select something, and you use start to go back, and you can also use B to go back. So it works quite kind of well if you just plug it straight in. You can also use a controller from Super Retrocade, which I have there. This actually works pretty well as well. It's the exact same kind of thing. These are both compatible. I don't know if you can buy this one separately, but you might be able to. But anyway, this one, the Circa, this is pretty good. It feels pretty good. It feels like a Super Nintendo. It looks obviously like a Super Nintendo controller. It feels like it, and it does a pretty good job. So that's what I use. And I use the original one that it came with. So if you want to pose questions to me and have them answered on this vlog, just check out my Patreon for more details. And one more thing, yeah, as you can see, I got Super Mario 64, as in Commodore 64, playing over here. Now the reason why I haven't showcased this on my channel, a lot of people have asked, I just don't want to grab Nintendo's attention on my channel. I'm a very small channel obviously, so I don't need any kind of heat from Nintendo. Like a lot of other channels have been hit by Nintendo, like you have to take videos down and that. I'm not into, I just don't want to deal with any of that. If you can check out my social media though, I've got plenty of Super Mario 64 stuff on there, like on my Facebook account and my Twitter account. You can check out some Super Mario stuff. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to bother doing it on YouTube. It just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, thanks for joining me, Bastish B at 64K. I hope you enjoyed this vlog and look forward to a whole bunch of these episodes that are coming up. If you can like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.